Have you ever imagined that one ordinary morning could destroy everything you've built? My name is Jessica Miller. I'm a single mom, 32 years old. I work as an accountant at a small firm in Ohio. My life wasn't perfect, but it was mine. Every day followed the same routine. Wake up, make breakfast, drop my son Ethan off at school, work, come home, help him with homework, read him a bedtime story. Simple, peaceful, predictable. Until one morning. A morning that started like any other, and ended in handcuffs. I was making coffee when there was a loud knock at the door. Before I could even react, the door burst open. Police officers swarmed in, guns drawn. My heart stopped. "Jessica Miller, you're under arrest for armed robbery." I froze. I thought this must be a mistake. They have the wrong person. But they grabbed my wrists, pulled me toward the door. My little boy Ethan stood in the hallway, clutching his teddy bear, his eyes wide with fear. "Mommy," he whispered. I looked back at him as the officers led me out of my own home. In that moment, I wasn't Jessica Miller, accountant. I wasn't Jessica Miller, mother. I was a criminal in their eyes. And so began the nightmare that would change my life forever. Before that morning, my life was ordinary, maybe even boring to some. But to me, it was everything. I'm Jessica Miller, born and raised in Dayton, Ohio. I wasn't anyone special, no big dreams, no wild ambitions. I just wanted a stable life for me and my son. Ethan is 6, the sweetest little boy you'd ever meet. He loves dinosaurs and has a laugh that could brighten the darkest days. His father and I separated when Ethan was just a toddler. Things didn't work out, and honestly, it was for the best. Since then, it's been just the two of us. Every weekday morning, I'd wake up at 6:30. I'd pack Ethan's lunch, usually a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, apple slices, and those little dinosaur-shaped gummies he adored. After dropping him off at school, I'd head to work. My job at the accounting firm wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills. Numbers made sense to me. They didn't change. People did. But numbers? They were honest. After work, it was homework time with Ethan. Then dinner. Then his favorite part of the night, story time. His current favorite was How to Catch a Dinosaur. We must have read it 100 times. Weekends were for grocery runs, play dates, and laundry. Nothing exciting, nothing dramatic. But it was ours. A small, safe world I built piece by piece after the divorce. Looking back now, maybe I took that piece for granted. Maybe I thought bad things only happened to other people. People on the news, people who made mistakes. Not someone like me. But the truth is, bad things don't knock. They don't warn you. Sometimes they just kick down your door. March 3rd started like any other day. I was making coffee. The sun was just beginning to rise, casting that soft golden glow through the kitchen window. Ethan was still asleep upstairs. His school backpack was already packed and sitting by the front door. Then came the knock. At first, it was normal, just 3 quick knocks. I assumed it was the mailman or maybe a neighbor. But before I could even reach the door, the knocks turned into loud pounding. Boom, boom, boom. I felt a chill run down my spine. Something wasn't right. I barely had time to process when the door burst open. Police officers flooded into my home. Their guns were drawn. "Jessica Miller," one shouted, "step away from the counter and put your hands where we can see them." I froze. My brain couldn't catch up. Was this a joke? A prank? Some kind of terrible mistake? "What's going on?" I asked, my voice shaking. An officer grabbed my wrist and twisted my arm behind my back. "Jessica Miller, you are under arrest for armed robbery." "What? No, this has to be wrong. I haven't done anything." Handcuffs clicked around my wrists, cold, tight, final. Then I heard it, a small voice from the stairs. "Mommy?" Ethan. He was standing there in his dinosaur pajamas, clutching his teddy bear. His eyes were wide, full of fear and confusion. "Mommy, what's happening?" My heart shattered. "It's okay, baby," I tried to say calmly, though my own fear was suffocating me. "Stay upstairs, it's going to be okay." But how could I promise that? I didn't even know what was happening. The neighbors were gathering outside, phones in hand, filming. I wanted to scream, to beg them to stop, but my voice wouldn't work. I was drowning in fear and humiliation. The officers led me out of my house, past the people I'd known for years, people I'd shared barbecue cookouts with, people who now looked at me like a criminal. They pushed me into the back of a squad car. No one told me where Ethan was going. No one told me what was really happening. As the car pulled away, I caught one last glimpse of my son through the window, his face pressed against the glass, tears streaming down his cheeks. That image would haunt me for a long, long time. The ride to the police station felt endless. Every minute, I kept thinking, they'll realize it's a mistake. Any moment now, they'll apologize and take these cuffs off. But the moment never came. They booked me like any criminal. Fingerprinting, mugshots. I remember the camera flash blinding me, as if the world was erasing who I was and replacing me with a suspect. I kept telling them over and over, I didn't do this. I've never even held a gun. But they didn't listen. They didn't care. They placed me in a holding cell. The walls were cold, gray. There was no clock, no sense of time, just the humming of fluorescent lights and the distant sound of other people crying, shouting, pleading. I sat there in disbelief. How could this happen? Then came the questioning. A detective sat across from me with a file in hand. Jessica Miller, he began, you match the description of a suspect involved in an armed robbery 2 weeks ago. A woman was seen on security cameras near the scene. Same height, same hair color, similar facial features. I shook my head. I wasn't there, I can prove it. I was at work that day. He didn't even look up. We'll check that. But for now, you're being held. Held? For something I didn't do. I asked for a lawyer. They provided a public defender, a man named Mr. Carson. He flipped through the police report, sighed, and said, Honestly, Jessica, this doesn't look good. The best option might be to consider a plea deal. A plea deal? For a crime I didn't commit? No, I said firmly. I'm innocent. I won't admit to something I didn't do. But even as I spoke, doubt started creeping in. Because Mr. Carson looked at me not like an innocent person fighting for justice. He looked at me like another hopeless case. The hours dragged into a full day. No one told me where Ethan was or who was taking care of him. I imagined him crying for me, alone, wondering why his mom didn't come home. That thought broke me. I curled up on the cold bench in the cell and tried not to cry. But the tears came anyway, silent, exhausting, endless. I felt powerless, invisible, like my voice didn't matter anymore. That's when the fear set in. What if they never believed me? What if this mistake ruined not just my life, but Ethan's too? By the second day, I was starting to break. No new information, no updates. The public defender had all but given up on me. Then in the late afternoon, a guard approached my cell. Jessica Miller? He asked. There's someone here to see you. A lawyer. My heart raced. Mr. Carson? I asked. The guard shook his head. No, someone else. They led me to a small, sterile meeting room. Sitting at the table was a man I had never seen before. He stood up as I entered, offering a warm but serious smile. Ms. Miller, my name is Daniel Carter. I'm an attorney specializing in civil rights and wrongful arrests. I heard about your case. But how? I stammered. A friend of mine works at the courthouse. She mentioned a woman being held on a robbery charge with weak evidence. I did some digging. He opened a folder filled with papers. Jessica, I believe you're innocent. And if you are, I want to help you. I didn't know what to say. For the first time in days, someone was looking at me, not as a suspect, not as a lost cause, but as a person. I didn't do it, I whispered, my voice cracking. I swear to you, I was at work the entire day they say the robbery happened. He nodded. That's what I thought. I've already requested your work records and security footage from your office building. We're going to build your defense properly. Tears welled up in my eyes. No one had believed me until now. No one had even tried. Thank you, I said, barely able to get the words out. Daniel leaned forward. We're also going to challenge the police's evidence. Facial recognition data is notoriously unreliable, especially when the footage is grainy. Mistaken identity happens more than people realize. He paused. But we have to move quickly. If we can prove you were somewhere else when the crime took place, we can not only get these charges dropped, we can hold the police accountable for what they've done to you. For the first time, a small flame of hope lit inside me. Maybe, just maybe, this nightmare could end. But deep down, I knew the battle had only just begun. The next few days moved like a blur, but for the first time, they didn't feel hopeless. Daniel worked fast. He subpoenaed my employer's time logs, pulled security camera footage from my office building, and gathered testimonies from coworkers who saw me at work the day of the robbery. I wasn't just saying I was innocent. Now we could prove it. The police's case rested almost entirely on facial recognition software that flagged me based on grainy security footage from the robbery scene. A woman of similar build and dark hair. But Daniel dug deeper. He uncovered studies showing how unreliable facial recognition could be, especially for women and minorities. It had already led to wrongful arrests in other states. This isn't just a mistake, Daniel told me. It's a systemic problem, and they rushed to judgment because it was easy. Meanwhile, the prosecution resisted. They claimed the technology was trustworthy, that eyewitnesses had also identified someone who looked like me. But when Daniel interviewed those witnesses, the truth came out. None of them had gotten a clear view of the suspect's face. Most admitted they'd been shown my photo after the arrest, not before. Classic confirmation bias. Daniel filed a motion to dismiss the charges. We sat in the courtroom together as he presented our evidence. He showed the judge time-stamped footage of me entering and exiting my office, miles away from the crime scene. He presented emails I sent during the exact time of the robbery. Coworkers testified under oath that I was at my desk that entire morning. Then Daniel turned to the judge and said, "Your Honor, not only is my client innocent, but the investigation itself was deeply flawed. Ms. Miller was presumed guilty from the moment facial recognition software misidentified her. No effort was made to verify her alibi. This is not justice." The prosecutor tried to object, but it was clear. Their case was falling apart. The judge reviewed the evidence silently for what felt like hours. Finally, he spoke. "The charges against Jessica Miller are dismissed. She is free to go." The room spun around me. I was free. But as relief washed over me, it was followed by something else. Anger. My name had been dragged through the mud. I'd lost my job. My neighbors still looked at me with suspicion. My son had been traumatized. I wasn't just going to walk away. As Daniel gathered his papers, I turned to him. "Can we sue them for what they did to me? To Ethan?" He smiled grimly. "I was hoping you'd ask." Getting the charges dismissed was a victory, but it didn't feel like justice. My life had been turned upside down. I'd lost my job. My son, Ethan, couldn't sleep through the night anymore. He kept having nightmares about police taking me away again. And the worst part? The police department never apologized, not once. Daniel explained that we had grounds for a lawsuit: false arrest, malicious prosecution, emotional distress. This wasn't just a mistake, he said. They failed to investigate properly, they relied on faulty technology, and they violated your civil rights. So, we filed the lawsuit, Jessica Miller versus Dayton Police Department. Almost immediately, the department's lawyers tried to settle. They offered a sum of money if I agreed to drop the case and stay quiet. For a moment, I was tempted. After all, money could help. I needed to rebuild my life, pay bills, find a new place for Ethan and me. But then I remembered Ethan's face at the window that morning. I remembered the fear, the humiliation. I told Daniel, "No, I don't want to settle. This isn't just about me. If they could do this to me, they could do it to anyone. I want the truth to come out." Daniel nodded. "Then we'll fight." The next year was grueling. The police department stalled at every turn. They denied wrongdoing. They blamed the technology. They even tried to suggest that I somehow resembled the real suspect too closely for them to ignore. But our evidence was clear. The timeline proved my innocence. Expert witnesses testified about the dangers of over-reliance on facial recognition software. Other cases across the country were surfacing, people wrongly accused because of the same flawed technology. Slowly, the public started paying attention. Local news stations covered my story. Civil rights groups reached out in support. I wasn't invisible anymore. I had a voice. And I was determined to use it. 2 years after that terrible morning, I walked into a courtroom, not as a defendant, but as a plaintiff. The room was packed, reporters lined the back rows, civil rights activists filled the benches, and sitting at the defense table were the attorneys for the Dayton Police Department. I took my seat beside Daniel. My hands trembled, but not from fear, from determination. The trial began. Our case was clear. The police had relied solely on unreliable technology. They ignored my alibi. They failed to properly investigate. They caused severe emotional distress to both me and my son. The city's lawyers argued that the police had acted in good faith, that mistakes happen, that no one intended harm. But intentions didn't change what had happened to me, or to Ethan. I took the stand. For hours I told my story about the arrest, the humiliation, the sleepless nights, Ethan's nightmares, losing my job, losing my sense of safety. I looked directly at the jury and said, I was treated like a criminal before anyone asked if I could have been innocent. I was guilty the moment that software flagged my face. My son watched me get taken away in handcuffs because no one bothered to check the facts. Then I paused and added, this isn't just about me. It's about making sure this doesn't happen to anyone else. The defense tried to paint me as someone looking for a payday, but the jury wasn't buying it. They listened to the expert witnesses Daniel brought in, engineers who explained how facial recognition technology was flawed, especially for women and minorities, psychologists who described the trauma wrongful arrests cause, especially to children like Ethan. After days of testimony, the lawyers gave their final arguments. Daniel stood and said, justice is not a privilege, it's a right. Jessica Miller was denied that right. Today, you have the power to restore it. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Every minute felt like an eternity. Finally, they returned. The foreperson stood. We find in favor of the plaintiff, Jessica Miller. A wave of relief washed over me. Then came the damages. The jury awarded a significant financial settlement, enough to cover the losses, the therapy, the future. But more importantly, they demanded the Dayton Police Department issue a formal public apology. For the first time, the people who had wronged me had to admit it. I wasn't just a suspect anymore. I was a survivor, a fighter, a mother who refused to stay silent. Winning the lawsuit brought closure, but it didn't erase the scars. Ethan and I both started therapy. At first, he didn't want to talk about what happened. He was scared that if he spoke about it, it might come back. But little by little, with the help of a kind therapist, he began to heal. He learned that what happened to me wasn't my fault, and that the police who hurt us were not above accountability. As for me, I didn't go back to my old accounting job. I realized I couldn't return to a life where I felt powerless. With part of the settlement money, I started a nonprofit organization, Faces of Justice. Our mission? To provide legal support and advocacy for others wrongfully accused because of faulty technology or police negligence. I began speaking at conferences, telling my story, not because I wanted attention, but because I wanted to prevent another mother, another child, from living our nightmare. The public apology from the Dayton Police Department was broadcast on local television. For many, it was just a press conference. For me and Ethan, it was a turning point. They said, "We acknowledge the mistakes made in the wrongful arrest of Jessica Miller and deeply regret the harm caused. It wasn't enough to undo the past, but it was a start." Today, Ethan sleeps through the night. He still loves dinosaurs. And sometimes when he's scared, he holds my hand and says, "Mommy, you're the bravest person I know." But the truth is, I was just a mom who refused to give up. I stood up because I had to, for Ethan, for myself, and for everyone who doesn't have the means or the voice to fight back. I lost my peace once, but I gained something far greater: purpose. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening to my story. I didn't share this to gain sympathy. I shared it because wrongful arrests are not rare. They happen more often than people realize, and most victims don't have the resources or the support to fight back. Technology like facial recognition can be a powerful tool, but when used without proper checks and accountability, it can destroy innocent lives. I was fortunate to find an attorney who believed in me, to have a son who gave me strength, and a community that eventually stood by my side. But not everyone is so lucky. If you or someone you know has been wrongfully accused or mistreated by law enforcement, don't stay silent. Reach out. Get help. Demand accountability. Justice is not automatic. Sometimes it has to be fought for. And sometimes it starts with one voice refusing to be silenced. Thank you.